Hey Art. Okay, so hope you can see this clearly. I'm assuming that the injury is right here. So the tissues that are involved in sort of this motion. So if you were to say do this motion against resistance, you might experience pain. For me, opening a doorknob sometimes also causes the same sort of pain. So if that's the case, this may help. So here's a little dowel. So I bought this dowel from Home Hardware. It's about 1 meter long. And what I've done is I have added, I think each of these is a pound or a half pound. I think it's a pound each. So you got two sort of 1 pound weights, so total of 2 pounds. And I've put them right close to the edge of the dowel. And I put Gorilla Tape around to secure it in place. If you find a different solution, by all means. And then what I've done is I have marked on the dowel 6 sections, A, B, C, D, E, F. And within each section I've marked like 10 numbers. So in the A it goes from 0 to 10, and then B it goes from 1 to 10, C it goes from 1 to 10, and so on. So you could imagine sort of counting from 0 to 60 or whatever, where it goes 0 to 10, and then like 25 would be C5, for example. Alright, so the way to use this, sort of a general principle with healing tendonitis, one thing that's shown to be very effective is doing the eccentric phase only, without the concentric phase. So just a sort of like concentric phase, let's say you're trying to rehab some tendonitis involved in the flexion of your elbow, so a bicep tendon or something. The concentric phase would be this, the eccentric phase would be this. So if you wanted to rehab your bicep tendon, you want to do the eccentric phase only. So you'd want to use an assistance to bring up the arm like this, so you're not stressing it concentrically, and then you'd release slowly under weight. So imagine you're doing a chin-up and you're slowly going down. You're still using your biceps, because if you weren't using your biceps, you'd be in a free fall. So your biceps actually slow the descent down. So that's kind of the principle behind eccentric contractions. It's like a lengthening of the tissue under tension. And you can use that principle to sort of like address the tendonitis in the tissues that control, I guess, radial deviation, ulnar, radial, I think it's radial deviation. So let's say the balance point of this dowel is, you can find it kind of just by like so. What you want to do is find a point sort of away from the balance point, but not too far. The further you go, the more weight you're going to be doing. So if it's like a little bit beyond the balance point, like right here, let's say put it right here. If you're holding it sort of in a neutral position like this, the dowel is going to want to fall down like that, right? And if you wanted to bring the dowel up, you'd have to concentrically contract those muscles, like so. But with a tendon injury, if you do that, you'll often re-injure it. So you want to find a way to, in other words, you want to use your left hand to do the concentric work, which is like that. Then you let go and you slowly lower it like that. And here, these tissues are doing the work eccentrically. So you pull it up like that with your left hand and slowly lower. And another key thing here is that you want all the motion to be in your wrist joint. You don't want it to be, for example, you don't want this to be happening. Right? Here, the dowel is rotating within my hand, and the friction between the dowel and my hand is what's slowing the descent down. You don't want any friction to be doing the work. You want all the work to be done here. So you want to keep your wrist solid. You want your fingers in solid contact so that the position doesn't change between your hand and the dowel. So just like all the motions occurring at the joint. So again, if I do it incorrectly, it'll be like that. Like no motions occurring at the joint. Correctly, it would be like that. So that's one of the key principles, is to do eccentric only. The other principle is to progressively load over time. And you can be as conservative as you want. I tend to be very conservative because I don't want to overdo it and then have to restart again, which I've had to do a few times with many rehab experiences. So start with a position that's just slightly away from the weight relative to the balance point. So it's very, very little load, and it shouldn't cause any pain. In fact, one way to find out if this exercise is going to help is to choose a point that's pretty far up, and just try to like keep it in position and see if you feel any pain here. If you do feel pain there, but you don't feel pain here, then you see you have some space to progress through, and there's a good chance that this will work. So start with a very low point, like let's say you choose A0. Write down A0 in your sort of like text file or a piece of paper, and say on February 20th I did A0. Maybe start with 3 sets of 10. So 1, really slowly. Remember, use your left arm to bring it back up. Rest maybe a minute between sets. And then wait. I like to wait 48 hours just to be conservative. I like to give that amount of time for the tissues to adapt. And then move up by 2 or 3 marker points. So each of these markers I've got separated by a centimeter. So you can move to A2 and do the same thing. And let's say it takes you, let's say there's like 60, or let's say you want to go up to like 40. That's 20 sessions every 2 days. That's about a month and a half. Once you've gotten to there, then what you can do is go back to the beginning and then do the entire concentric and eccentric. So you're going to do a few weeks of eccentric only, progressively getting harder and harder. Then you're going to go right back to the beginning and do the concentric and eccentric. So you'd be like, and be very careful when you do this. You want to start very, very light. I've actually made very good progress with the eccentric phase, and then gone back to the concentric and overdone it and have to restart all over again. So you don't want to do too many reps. I would stick with 3 sets of 5 when you do the concentric phase, maybe 3 sets of 8 if it's really light, and use the same progressive principle. And another important thing here is just to make sure you're actually doing something that's working, is to find a way to find something that in your daily life causes pain, like opening a doorknob or whatever. But you don't want to cause too much pain that you're injuring. You just find something. And then within a few sessions of doing this, especially during the eccentric phase, you'll know if it's working, because it won't be causing as much pain. Let's say opening a doorknob used to cause a little bit of pain, and after a few sessions it causes less pain or no pain. Then you'll know you're on the right track. Another thing is you don't want to progress too fast or too much. So I'd stick with every 48 hours and only go up by 2 or 3 each time. And also make sure in your daily life you're not setting yourself backwards. So it might mean using your left hand to brush your teeth or whatever for a while. But yeah, hopefully this helps, and let me know what happens. Okay, thanks.